Okay, hey, what's up, people? This is episode 3 of the Podunk Nerd Podcast. I am Ray Kaufman. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Adam Spiegel. He is remote from his home, my home office. We are recording this from two different locations, as we will be until we get some space to record side by side. So, Adam, how's your week been, man?
It's been pretty amazing today just because the weather hasn't been, a hellscape outside. So,
Central Kentucky in the middle of August is usually like a trailer for fucking Doom. that E3 trailer they showed for Doom.
Vacation in Texas some months ago, and they were complaining about the heat and stuff. I was like, this is a dry heat. I can handle this all day. You could light me on fire, and I'd be fine. You're like, whoa, no, Texas gets really hot. It's like, no, dude, there is condensation on the inside of our windows in Kentucky. That's how humid it gets.
So it's been like what, high 60s, low 70s today? I mean, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the best time to visit Kentucky for anyone listening is the fall.
Oh, yeah.
Just forget about all the other seasons. Winter sucks. Summer's terrible. Spring is tornadoes. Fall. Just come in the fall.
And really, you've got about a 10-day window to come in the fall now, because that's about all the fall we get. It goes straight from the dead of summer, 10 days of transition into winter.
It's just not fun at all.
So we're like in this weird temporal zone right now in Kentucky. Where
tell my wife, I want to move to Colorado.
Yeah, there's like some kind of weird merging of realms happening over Kentucky right now, and we get 10 days of fall every year. Well, that's cool, man. So, good week. We've been, what have you been into this week, man? What kind of stuff are you into? What are you feeling this week, man?
This week, me and my wife have been rewatching Breaking Bad.
Oh, man, it's so good.
It is good. And it's so good. In parody with, we're both watching Better Call Saul, which is equally awesome. Mm-hmm. And, she just had she kept finding herself having questions of well, how does that relate to that? How does it not relate to this? Or whatever. And she was she kind of cautiously asked me, do you want to rewatch Breaking Bad? I was like, well, that's like asking me if I want to rewatch The Office. Duh. I mean, I'll rewatch it 7 times a year. I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't get old.
No.
Me and my wife went back and I guess it's about a year ago. Maybe last summer they did a marathon or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was on AMC, and they were running a marathon. And I guess there was no Walking Dead on that part of the season. So they had this long marathon running, and every time we got a chance to sit down on the couch together, we just watched it. And she was like, I've seen this episode 3 times. I'm like, yeah, man, but it doesn't get old. My favorite Breaking Bad characters were the brothers who came up from Mexico, the 2 assassins. When a character or 2 characters show up on the screen, the whole tone of the show just changes.
Right.
Those guys had a presence, and I don't know who those actors are. Those guys are really good. They didn't say a word. I think one of them said a couple of words in Spanish before he died or something.
Yeah.
And spoilers, okay, if you haven't seen it, that's on you, okay? It's the greatest television show in the history of TV, so if you haven't seen it, that's on you.
My favorite character from Breaking Bad, period. All of it. In Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad. Those 2 shows, for those who haven't watched it, those are in the same universe. And
Better Call Saul's a prequel.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike. I love Mike.
Mike's awesome, man.
Mike's the man.
Yeah. He's always in control. And if there's ever a situation in either show where he seems unsure about something and you're okay. Yeah, well, yeah. And as the viewer, you're like, this is the writer's way of telling you this is a bad situation. He is the writer being on screen being like, this is a bad situation. You should probably check out on this.
And Mike is so apathetic.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't care. He doesn't care at all.
Yeah, he's all business. He is like the mob hitman of the show. He's like, I got a job to do. How are we doing this? This guy paid me more to do this, so you might be in a little bit of trouble here.
His tone, his monotone, everything.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, this week I've been watching a lot of, we'll talk about this here in a little bit, but I've been watching Gamescom footage from Germany. And
I just got caught up on it myself.
Yeah, and I can't wait for Resident Evil 2. It is if I were to rank my favorite gaming franchises of all time, it's in the top three. I don't know where it is in the top three, but it is in the top three with Castlevania and Final Fantasy. No questions asked. It's like 1A, B, and C, basically. Um, and I did a reaction video, kind of a reaction review video of me watching the footage. So I just actually did it shortly earlier today. So saw the screenshots. I didn't know there was video footage until a buddy of mine texted me and was like, "Have you seen the video of Claire's run?" And I was like, "Wait, say no more. I'll go find it." It looks amazing, amazing. And the Devil May Cry 5 stuff with Nero and Dante. And Dante's got what I can only describe as motorcycle nunchucks. That game looks insane. Capcom is kind of like in this whole redemption territory right now,
right?
Where they're they're bringing it on Street Fighter. They're bringing it with the Street Fighter stuff. Now they're bringing it with Mega Man. The new Mega Man game is getting ready to come out. Is that numerically? That's Mega Man 11. Yeah, it is. It's a numeric. It's Mega Man 11. That looks great. Then you've got Castlevania. I mean, Castlevania's Konami. You've got Resident Evil, and you've got Devil May Cry dropping. Capcom might be the studio of the year. I mean, people are going to say Rockstar for Red Dead, but I look at Capcom as one of the major companies. Rockstar is a major company, but they put out one or two games here and there. I'm talking about the big AAA companies that put out games all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Capcom, if they can nail this, if they can nail finishing out this season for Street Fighter, if they can nail the Mega Man 11 launch, they nail Resident Evil 2, and if they can nail Devil May Cry 5 for this 12-month period, you have to consider them the best developer, one of the best developers on the planet, because they're really cleaning house. Unlike Konami, you look at what Konami done. I don't think they had anything. People don't even talk about them anymore. Anytime there's like a video game show or something, they don't have anything happening.
Yeah, they kind of window seated themselves unintentionally.
Yeah, and they treated people bad, and so it's like a tale of two cities. You know what I mean? It's like, this is how you treat your citizens, this is how you don't treat your citizens. You know what I mean? And Capcom right now, people have nothing but praise for them for what they're doing. And the thing about these titles, they have protected them. They have not leaked anything. Like when they showed up at E3 with Devil May Cry 5, and everybody knew it was coming, but how much they had of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And how much Resident Evil 2 they had without anybody getting a glimpse of it.
Yeah, that's like impossible. Like we knew going into E3, like, okay, RE2, they'll probably have like a
teaser or something,
an HD title screen for it,
right?
Or they'll just have the main Resident Evil guy on there to say it, and everyone will get jazzed. No, they had like half an hour.
Yeah, they had two trailers with completely different gameplay, and they had like a 20-minute demo ready for people to play. They built Raccoon City at E3, and they shadow dropped it. They like, okay, you're coming to E3. Oh, here's Raccoon City.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. Hats off to those guys. So anyway, Gamescom was dope, and we'll talk more about it here in a little bit. But yeah, that's what I'm feeling this week.
Me personally, for Gamescom, I get super duper stoked because this game that I think it was slightly mentioned at E3, but it was also at Gamescom recently. It had a full trailer and stuff. Was Call of Cthulhu.
I didn't see anything about that.
Oh, that's a super old board game from the 80s.
Well, no, I'm familiar with that, but I'm not familiar with what they're doing, so explain it.
Oh, it looks so good. So essentially, it takes off of the canon of pretty much it's like a reskin or a refresh of the super old game that was like from the late 90s, early thousands, and makes it look a hell of a lot prettier. It gives it a lot more involvement in the immersion in the game. And essentially, in Call of Cthulhu, you're a detective investigating a death in a town, which is, unbeknownst to you, is full of this huge cult. And you have to investigate the disappearances, the murders, things of that nature. And the crazy thing about it is like the further you get into uncovering what actually happened, you have to balance it out with uncovering truth and remaining in the dark, because if you uncover too much too quickly, you'll actually go insane.
I'm actually looking at the I'm actually looking at a little bit of the gameplay trailer right now. That's what I was looking
sick.
up. Oh, man, this looks really good.
It looks really good.
That's awesome, dude.
It's one of the first games I ever played on the PC.
Nice. Well, let's talk about. Well, since we're already talking about, let's go ahead and talk about Gamescom right now, man. We've got another subject we're going to get to here shortly, but yeah, let's do it right now. So they had a lot. Like one of the games I'm looking forward to is this Jump Force game. As you know, I'm a big like shonen manga fan. Like, you know, it was not that obvious, you know. In the most recent trailer they showed, they talked about, you know, some of the Bleach characters, which I love Bleach. It was not good in the end, the manga or the anime. Well, the manga was really good in the end, actually. But they revealed 3 characters in the last video. They revealed Ichigo, of course, Rukia, and Aizen. And I was like, oh, you had me at Aizen. You had me at the anime Darth Vader. You know what I mean? So, like, I was excited to see that. And, of course, Blizzard had, like, a big, you know, they had a big presence there. And I think Cyberpunk, everybody was talking about Cyberpunk.
I'm very hesitant about Cyberpunk.
Well, here's the thing: people were losing at E3. They were losing their minds about it. Okay,
yeah.
but then the same people that would lose their minds about it would pan other games. We just got a CG trailer. Well, you didn't get gameplay in that trailer either.
Jack.
You know, it just showed, and it had the cheesiest dialogue. In this city, I'm this kind of guy. You know, I'm like, man, that's so cheesy. So double standard. If people were looking, like, people love The Witcher, and it's the same company that's doing Cyberpunk. But I'm hesitant about Cyberpunk. I'm like, we'll see.
I'm very cautious about it because, first of all, in the context of like IGN, I believe they got to play at Gamescom like 45 minutes of the game. Now, obviously, that's an alpha, but like they had a talking segment on IGN's like a screening of Gamescom where they're talking to the, you know, viewers. Oh, we played it and it's awesome. Da da da. I was like, how do we trust you, dude? Like,
yeah.
I mean, whatever. Like,
yeah,
you're on an NDA anyway. So why are we even talking about it?
Right, and you know, if I'm like GameStop or GameSpot and a big like publisher of content, I'm gonna kind of vet who I'm talking to about this. I'm not gonna pull somebody right off the thing. It looks like they had a bad experience. Like, what'd you think? This game sucked, man. Let me tell you why. Right. You know, they're gonna find out who liked it. And they're gonna bring them on. So, but yeah, so it was cool, man. And again, I would love to go to one of these shows sometime, like one of the big gaming shows or something like that. I think that'd be so fun, man.
Gamescom, in my opinion, seems to be a better bet, just because like E3, I think is so insanely hyped by motherfucking EA that nothing else matters.
Yeah,
you know?
And the funny thing about EA is that show every year they always have the lackluster like
garbage,
you know. But everybody hypes them up every year. I'm like, well, every year they deliver the same thing, and every year you say how disappointed you were. So where does it come a point where you're just looking forward to Sony's or Xbox? Xbox had a great one this year, man. They had
Sony's was like if someone did meth and threw together a panel.
It's like Sony's opened weird, like with the whole Last of Us church tent scene thing that had people in or whatever.
A buddy of mine was live tweeting. He was at E3 as a reporter. Was live tweeting at Sony's conference. He's like, yeah, so they just made us get up out of this room and like walk to another room.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going on. And we have, you know, press passes and assigned seats, but no one's sitting in assigned seats. We're so confused.
Right.
Like at one point they had the guy playing the like the samurai what's the way
Sekiro?
Yeah. Doing that. And yeah, and which that game looks cool, but that was like such a dumb way to like promote it, because the guy that I knew was live tweeting. He was like, no one told us what this was about. The guy just starts playing.
You're talking about Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Where they had the minstrel up there on stage playing.
Yeah.
What else from Gamescom were you digging into?
The Dark Pictures anthology,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you've ever have you played like a game that was like super like mocapped and it was like high quality as far as the NPC models?
I'm sure I have, but I can't really think of anything. Nothing's coming to my mind off. I played a lot of like wild, weird, out there kind of different games that use the mocap. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head that stands out.
Well, they use that in this, and this is the development company that's making this called the Dark Pictures Anthology. They're going to be releasing, I guess, standalone stories, like either mysteries or survival horror or something like that, that I believe are not interconnected, and they're just there just for a single playthrough or whatever, but they're high quality as far as visual. And it's definitely kind of a darker, kind of scarier feel to it. And I'm all about that because, frankly, survival horror has been functionally dead for a while.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately.
Yeah. So I really wanted to make a comeback, but I don't want it to be a big cheese fest. But I think it looked pretty cool. It's not coming out until next year. And then they say they plan on releasing 2 episodes of different stories. Two stories, basically. 2 of them once a year. So I don't know how long that's going to be. But I'm also kind of wary that you make that kind of a fat promise, on the starting line, because it's like, well, that's like 2 mini games a year. That's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But, if you've got like your engine mapped down and you've got your team laser focused, yeah, you can probably do it. But almost nobody does. So.
Yeah. Well, production, issues come up in production, and, scheduling conflicts, and this takes longer than that, and that takes longer than this, and then things happen. I think as a gaming fan, you start to expect delays. You say, okay, they're targeting the first quarter of this year. It's probably going to be the third quarter of this year. And I think we've kind of grown accustomed to being okay with that. You know what I mean? As long as it's not something crazy like delayed like 2 or 3 years. Like, well, what's the game on Xbox?
The worst one I can think of off the top of my head was Colonial Marines.
Oh, man.
That was delayed through 2 console generations.
There's one out, Crackdown 3. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, man.
Crackdown 3 has been in development hell for like, God knows how long. I think it's supposed to be out like a year or 2 ago, and they, keep dropping the ball, and they put Terry Crews in it, which Terry Crews is super dope. He's entertaining. Yeah. But, I think people are going to want this game out. Right, yeah.
But
it sells it with intensity.
There's a sliding scale. Just a comment. There's a sliding scale of development cycles that I think you and I, as like avid gamers over the years, are cool with. Anywhere from around like 6 months, shit happens. You can put a new aspect into your code for your game, and now you have to adjust everything for it. That sets everything back. But when it gets like over a year, that's when we start getting concerned.
Right.
That's when it's like, okay, that's either
how's this game actually going to work? Is it going to work? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's either you ran out of money or your parent company said no, and you just won't tell us.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm hoping. Well, the games they showed at Gamescom, I hope they all come through, because I didn't see anything that didn't look fun to play. There was a lot of stuff on there that, that Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I was looking really forward to Ghost of Tsushima, but that one won me over with what I saw this weekend, because it's got the grappling arm, it's got all the weird, crazy Edo period Japan monsters and all that stuff. I mean, it looks super cool. I can't wait to play it. And of course, Jump Force, it had a lot of the fighting gameplay. And like they totally incorporate all the major big destruction stuff. I just hope there's a few more stages in it, because right now all they're showing is like the big city stage or whatever. I'm hoping they've got some different stuff, because Dragon Ball Fighters is so cool, man. That's such a good game, and I'm just afraid that after playing Dragon Ball Fighters, this right here is going to feel like 2 steps backwards. You know what I mean? Because it's
Fighter Z. Okay.
Is it Fighter Z? I thought it was Fighters.
I'm just fucking with you. I have no idea.
I think I heard Chris Sabat say Fighters. If
he says it, then we'll just roll with it.
Yeah, I'm rolling with it, man. Vegeta said it. Who am I to argue? So,
right.
But the subject that we're going to kind of talk about this week, it kind of came up from just a friend of mine, just chatting with him, and I was thinking about this week's episode, and I was telling Adam about it. We're talking about, we're fans of all these franchises, comic books, video games, animation, you name it. And then when companies get a hold of it and make these movies, of course, they hardly ever live up to expectations. I can think of at least 5 franchises off the top of my head where it wasn't very good. And then I got to thinking to myself, well, we've already got the entirety of the body of work in front of us, whether it's a game or whether it's a comic or a graphic novel or animation or what have you, that we can go back and enjoy anytime. So why is it, Adam? And I'm going to ask you first. Why is it that we have this weird duality as fans of this stuff when a movie of our favorite, property doesn't do well or doesn't seem like it got the respect it deserved? Why can't we just go back and watch or play through that thing again and enjoy it? Why is your opinion that that's a disservice to us and viewed as a slight? I'm curious, because I am split down the middle on this. One half of me says it's fine, I can go back and enjoy this thing again. I don't need the movie. It's fine. They did their own thing. And the other half of me is like, this should have been great. You've got the whole thing in front of you. Why didn't you just do it this way? So I'm going to open it up to you. I'm going to let you talk. Let me know what you think about that.
To condense it as much as I can, because I've had, Lord knows, several heated conversations with people that are on both sides of the fence about it. One thing that I think why it's important, essentially, because I feel it's important, is because, let's say, let's say you have this car, right? And not a lot of people know about this car, and you discovered it, and it's kind of a rare car, and then you see more people have it, and you have this camaraderie and things like that. And then you bring it to a car show, and you want to show it off, and buddy years, you have the same car, different modifications to it, different colors, whatever, different characters, if you will, from the canon. And then the people that throw on the car show says, oh, you see those cars over there? Those ones that, they're kind of rare, you don't know a lot about? Put these glasses on, and you'll be able to see them better. And really what that means is we see our car, the canon, in a certain way that is very special to us, but you give someone glasses and goggles to look at it in a way that someone else wants them to look at it, it's going to, that pisses a lot of people off. Because it's like, okay, well now these goggles make this car look like a giraffe. I'm like, well, it's not a giraffe. It's a muscle car. Well, it looks like a giraffe to me, so whatever. So, and people just move on, and I think it's this kind of ownership of the canon when you invest so much time into it, in like getting to know that character and getting so invested into that world, and then you're like, oh, they're making a movie? Awesome. So now I'll have all these people that can share in those moments with me. Like, yeah, so let's talk about that, because I remember reading about that years ago in the comics, and then it's out in the movie, or it's completely scripted in the wrong direction that it actually happened in the canon. Now I understand that they can't do everything verbatim as in they do in comics, because movie ratings, for one, but I think it's important for those movies to be good, because when they're not good, it's not only disservice to the people that supported that license through the years, but it's a disservice to, you know, it's bringing people into like the wrong doorway of a world, and then reshaping it, and then telling the people that supported this license, because it's a license that gets made into maybe comic books or games, telling us, well, just deal with it.
Yeah, just making you eat the sandwich, basically.
Yeah,
You said you didn't want mayo, you got to eat it anyway.
You have to suck it. And it's like, these little things probably get under people's skin after a while, like, you know, not casting, like, people that are, you know, of a said likeness of the person. That's not a big deal, but some people it rubs them the wrong way. But if it's like so extreme that it's like maybe the film company, or I'm sorry, the production company had a clear agenda before they even made the film, and this used the film as a platform, and it's like something from like a comic book or a video game, well, that doubly makes everyone mad. It's like, well, wait, no, that's about these things over here. It's not about any of this stuff you're talking about. It's like, well, yeah, but whatever. We're just gonna do this with it. Okay, whatever then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can admit that, yeah, one movie is not going to destroy a license or anything like that, but I don't know. It's something to. It's a complicated subject, because people get offended about it. People get, you know, they choose their sides pretty hard. So.
Well, yeah, and it brings out like a whole gamut of raw emotions in people, and
yeah.
That's actually a service to. It's actually a compliment to the thing that's being approached. Like, I can think back when, you know, as far as back as when X-Men came out. You know, I was just starting college when the first X-Men movie came out. I remember going to see it, and I was like, okay. In my opinion, I liked the first X-Men movie, but that was also my first experience of, wow, these guys look nothing like my X-Men, you know, and a lot of these relationships aren't anything like my X-Men, you know.
Right.
But at the end of the movie, I was like, but for the most part, this was a really good movie, especially the quiet moments between Logan and Rogue. You know, that wasn't really canon, but it worked, you know,
right.
And the relationship between Professor Xavier and Magneto, even though they changed, you know, Eric Magnus's name to Lensher, that's what it was.
Yeah, Eric Lensher.
Yeah, so there was that, but that core relationship was still there. You know what I mean? The whole, because I think those characters were originally written as like a take on Malcolm X, a take on Dr. Martin Luther King, and their juxtaposition. You know how they approach things differently.
Right.
And I thought they really
logic and force.
Yeah, and I think they really nailed that. So that was my first experience with that whole kind of thing. Of course, Masters of the Universe that came out in the '80s or whatever. I wasn't old enough at the time to just be like,
man,
this is bad or whatever. You know, I was a kid. I was like, it's He-Man with a gun, with a laser gun. You know, and
you beat up Rocky.
Yeah, exactly. I want to look at Skeletor and go, I must break you. But
yeah.
And Ivan Drago talk. But anyway, the other side of that coin, I've got two for you all. All of my friends know, and some local artists, friends of mine, Justin and Tress, we've all had our not freakouts, but moments where we're at the movie theater where we just want to get up and walk out. They had theirs, and I've got a couple of other friends who had theirs too with certain things. Mine was Transformers. That first movie was okay. That first movie was a setup. But here's the thing. Aside from Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, you had no fucking idea who anybody was. No idea. You could have put names on any of those characters. And Brawl, in the theatrical version, I don't know if they fixed this on the home video release, but Brawl the Tank, when they're rolling out the Decepticons, everybody's checking in. He says, "This is Devastator checking in." I was like, bullshit. I was like, you all don't know what you're doing. And then Starscream showed up as the Jet. I was like, yes, that's my guy. That's probably my favorite cartoon. That is my favorite cartoon character of all time. But then when he transformed, he's a gorilla on chicken legs. Who in my head, I was like, who wrote this shit? Who designed this? You're fired. I'm an artist struggling to make it. How did I not get hired to be a part of this project if that's what makes it? You know what I mean? But I gave it a pass because at the end of the movie, I was like, okay, that's a good setup. Let's see where they go in the second movie. Second movie came out, hot garbage. I was done. I was done. And I think that was about the time when the second movie came out. That was a year or two after that when Dragon Ball Evolution came out in the theater. There you go. There you go.
I didn't even bother seeing that. It was like, there's no way you guys could do this well.
How that got greenlit, that pile of trash. Now, here's the thing. The talent in the movie, they all did a great job. They all did a great job portraying their characters. However, they were all miscast. You know what I mean? They did a good job, but they should not have been cast in that movie. Production, writing, directing, every level of this movie was horrid. Now I felt bad for the like I said, the talent, the actors in the movie because they all did a great job.
Right.
You know, Chow Yun-Fat was playing Master Roshi, and then some other guy was playing Yamcha. This guy playing Yamcha was easily 40 years old, and it's supposed to be Mongolian teenage Yamcha when he meets Goku. You know what I mean?
Didn't they also have Ape Form in that?
Yeah, Ozoru was in it.
Oh, Lord.
And then what's his name that played Spike on Buffy? James Marsters or whatever his name is. He did a good job as King Piccolo. He did a good job. You know? But why was Mai working with King Piccolo? That's Pilaf's right-hand woman. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that where you can't trust these companies. Don't even get me started on Resident Evil. Don't even get me started. Those movies are hot garbage. They're terrible. But
your suspension of belief couldn't withhold a I don't know 110-pound woman like Mortal Kombating uppercutting people through buildings.
Well, she is genetically enhanced in the movie, supposedly. Okay. But the thing is, one of my favorite video game characters of all time is Jill Valentine.
Oh yeah.
If you need a heroine in your movie, why not pick from the plethora that already exists within that canon? You know what I mean? Why not? You know, you got Claire Redfield, you got Ada Wong, you got Jill Valentine, you got some of the most badass females ever in a video game. Why do you have to make something up? Mila Jovovich could have played Claire Redfield. She's got the red hair and all that. She's got about the right build, you know. She could have played her. You know what I mean? You could just change those names and been fine. You could all the genetic enhancements, but okay, they're just going ham with this character. But that's fine because that character exists within this canon. You know what I mean? But and then later, I didn't see him past the third movie. My roommate at the time, I was like, let's go see this third one. If this third one's bad, we'll never watch another. He's like, okay.
Nemesis?
Nemesis was in the second one. The guy, the big, looked like somebody melted a Ninja Turtle suit. Because you could see, there was a scene in the theater. I don't know if they fixed this in the home video version, but there's a scene in the theater where you could see the seam where the headpiece goes on to the suit.
Nice.
Like you could see that. I was almost like I was looking for the zipper. Like it took me out of the scene. I was like, "Where's the zipper? Where's the zipper?"
Right. Well, for me, my ultimate, and this is not singular. I don't know a single person personally alive that disagrees with me, but there's no way in shit X-Men Origins Wolverine should ever been made.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
So I got super stoked, right, watching that movie.
The CG claws.
Yeah, I was like, what happened? You lost the prop or something? And so I got super stoked because it's like, oh my god, they're introducing X-Force. This is gonna be awesome. And So Wade Wilson / Deadpool is in it for like, I don't know, 17 seconds, and then he becomes a big, like, penis with like sword arms.
Well, what was the line that Stryker used? He's like, we call him Deadpool because the pool of abilities that he has now. And in the theater, I go, nope, like real loud.
Yeah, super wrong, super inaccurate. That's not even on the same planet.
Yeah. I remember going to see Origins with a group of guys, but not to turn this segment into just a segment where we bag on movies, but on the same kind of coin as that, I can watch a movie of a bad take on one of my favorite properties, but I can go back and re-experience the things I love about those properties at home, like on home video or in a game, because the way games are now, you don't need to make movies about them anymore. You're basically playing a movie. They're so good now, and they're almost photorealistic, where, I mean, look at the stuff coming out for the next gen consoles. I mean, you're basically playing a movie. You're playing your story the way you want to play it. So I think the importance and the gravity of movie studios picking these things up here is dwindling more and more as time progresses. I think A, people have been burned and have not been happy with the results, and B, people are like, you know what, we don't need this. Hollywood needs to pick up these contracts to these movies, but these industries do not need to let them anymore. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. Especially with the advent of the internet and streaming and all this other kind of stuff, people can pick up and play or watch whatever they want now, and they can experience it firsthand. And plus, we also have a thing where all of us maybe have been at a certain point in our lives where we experienced a thing, a show, a game, or some kind of story in whatever medium that at that time it spoke to us. So it's going to be infinitely more important than it will to maybe the next person. They won't get something that we got when we were going through something in our lives. And I think that translates to, why don't you get this when you're watching a movie too? I think that translates as well. And I think when you're in the moment of nerd rage, when you're watching these bad interpretations of your stuff, I think we kind of forget that the filmmaker and the people making these movies experience is not what our experience was with it. We have these genuine movie experiences that become a part of us, and these people are like, well, we can make X amount of dollars if we produce this at this budget with these things, and let's add this thing from this story and that thing from that story and the popular things from these different story arcs and put them all in one movie and see what happens. It's a business decision to them, but it's not like a personal experience like it was for us,
Yeah, sure. I mean, like with the original content, that's a team of like writers, illustrators, stuff like that, and it's put in a book, stapled together, and it's sent to a comic book store or wherever, and that's about it. That's the end of it. But with a movie, there's a lot of money going around. There's investors you have to pay back. There's that break-even mark that has to be met, and frankly, even if doing what would be justice to the canon itself as close as possible, even if that was what everyone wanted, they still have to pay their bills. And as an adult, I mean, that analogy I gave earlier, I mean, that was pretty much how I got pissed off about like shitty movies representing things I cared about, when I was younger. But now as an adult, it's like, well, I mean, they do got to put asses in seats. So, I mean, and if it's something, frankly, if it's just something I can tell just from the, outward perspective, I'm probably not going to like that. I just don't go see it. I'm not going to go give money and just like be pissed off in the theater. So, plus I think a lot of people like it. You have to gauge, like you were saying, you have to gauge your level of acceptance of deviation of whatever that may be from what you read and what they want to do. Sometimes it's really bad, and sometimes it's fine. Like unpopular opinion, I guess. I loved Man of Steel. I loved that movie. I thought
there were parts I enjoyed. Man of Steel was. I did like it. I left the theater. I liked it. I liked it more then than I kind of do now, because I think what they did with the stuff later kind of tainted my view of Man of Steel now. But I really enjoyed it coming out of the theater. I was super excited because Superman actually threw a punch in the movie. You know what I mean? Unlike, what was it? Superman Returns? They should have said, to stalk.
Right.
Superman Returns, to stalk.
I never saw that. Never saw that movie, but
I watched. I thought it was going to be really good, but it wasn't very.
I watched. I've read a lot of Superman over the years, and it was Man of Steel to me feels like the first current generation DC movie, next to Wonder Woman, which was also amazing. The first DC movie that was like, okay, now they're taking this super serious. Because beforehand we had what? Green Lantern?
Yeah, it wasn't. That was not good.
No.
when Sinestro sent Hal Jordan back to Earth crying, I was like, this ain't Hal Jordan, man. He'd be there taking those licks. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And loving it.
What's the name of the actor? I always forget.
It was Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, yeah. Even when we were looking at like casting beforehand of like Green Lantern the movie, I'm like, Ryan Reynolds, because in most movies, Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
You
Totally.
know, like Ryan Reynolds as himself. It's in every credits of every movie he's ever been in. But I don't know. I mean, the DC movies, a lot of people crap on them. Frankly, I think it's because Marvel's got such a huge push and so much momentum, and you know, yeah, the DC movies are dark. I will admit that, but I like them dark.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think my biggest hang up on the DC movies is just like, not so much, they're dark and they're grittier and that kind of thing, but just like, if you look at Justice League and like some other, what was another one? Batman v Superman. The backgrounds, it was all just CG. It's CG'd out, CG blowout. Everything is on like a stage. You know, there's hardly any real backgrounds in any of those shots. I mean, as a visual artist, I can see that. And it's like eating nothing but chocolate all day and not having any broccoli or no chicken.
Right.
You know what I mean? I need some greens in my diet. I need some natural proteins. I can't eat Jolly Ranchers and Hershey's bars all day. And it gets to a point where you just go, whoa, you know, it's like, okay, I've seen enough CG. Is there anything real in this? You know, that's my hang up on the DC stuff. But, you know, again, I think it's one of those issues where, you know, you've got a certain set of stories that you enjoy. And Zack Snyder, I don't necessarily think he's a great director. I think he's a great visual storyteller. But I don't think he's very good at telling a story that is going to stick with you or mean much to you. You know what I mean? I think Christopher Nolan should have been the guy handling DC, to be honest with you. Which I think that was originally the plan, and it fell through or whatever. But
who ended up directing it? Because I know Snyder had to step out because of like some unfortunate family things happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure who stepped in for him, but again, it goes back to the point to where, you know, wherever you fall on the DC movies or the Marvel movies or whatever, you've still got material coming out that's not movies. Now, I think the big division there is Marvel is all about, you know, making those movies now. They even want to tie their comics to movies and all that kind of stuff. And DC's like, whoa. No, our movies are our movies and our comic books are our comic books. You know what I mean? We've got decades of storylines and things to draw from, and I think that's one place, in my opinion, where DC has Marvel on the one up. I think their comic book storytelling and largely their art, I think, is way better, in my opinion, just for me. Marvel's movies are more popular, but I'm not going to say they're better. I think they're more popular. I think the Marvel movies were better before Disney came in. You know what I mean? Like, the first Iron Man is definitely probably still my favorite Marvel movie. The first Guardians of the Galaxy was good, but that was all James Gunn, you know? that was him taking the Guardians of the Galaxy books and the characters from the different books that they had appeared in and put them in one movie and put the James Gunn spin on it. You know what I mean? Those movies could have easily been epically boring, you know,
Sure.
because a lot of the Guardians comic books, I mean, there's some weird stuff in them,
Mm-hmm.
but Star-Lord is not the Star-Lord from the movies. That's a James Gunn creation. You know what I mean? Um, but the first Iron Man movie and the second Spider-Man movie are probably two of my favorite comic book movies of all time. And the second Spider-Man movie, just because of Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, was so perfect. He was so perfect in that movie. But again,
Right.
it's drawing from different comics and different stories. And if you don't like what they're doing on screen, that's my whole reason for this discussion. Is I think people get too upset about the movies. You know, I think you can have a voice, you can voice your opinion. If it's something that's super important to you and super close to your heart, you can have that freak out moment. But you also have, like, look at my bookcase back here. I've got books, I've got games, I've got DVD, I've got all my favorite stuff that I've kept over the years because it's my favorite stuff. You know, I can go back and revisit that anytime I want to. And I don't have to worry about somebody's vision tarnishing it because at the end of the day, I can go back to the original content and still enjoy it. And the way games are made now and the way storytelling is done now, people leave a lot of things up to your interpretation these days. And you can kind of enjoy your media or your stories or your favorite stuff and characters pretty much however you want to now.
I think it's more so like I definitely agree with you. And on top of that, it's this primal feeling of like this. I think people, when they get so invested in a story, they feel some form of ownership of it. Not
Mm-hmm.
like they actually wrote it, right? But
Right.
in the sense of
But I'm
like,
a
that's
part of
part
this.
of me. That's
Yeah.
part of me. And by subconscious extension, you taking this shit movie and swathing it over everything I care about that had nothing to do with the movie at all, I'm personally offended, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, I think, where a lot of it stems from anymore, is that it's not that it is that some people just can't handle a bad movie, but it's also that some people like, you know, let's say someone was really not okay with Thor, the Thor movie, the first Thor movie. If they were super invested in, you know, the Thor lore they've been reading since, I don't know, the Golden Age, let's say they hated it or whatever, in their mind it wasn't what they thought would be a fair representation of, you know, that character, as a relationship they have with that character in reading it. And
Yeah.
it's a big mess, but, you know, overall, I think it's why I've always like stuck to like monster movies, just because it's like, who cares?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like they just blow buildings up and fight each other. It's like, you know, 5-foot Asian men in rubber suits. Who cares? I don't care. And,
Right. But I think you
but
make a good point with the ownership thing. I think and that's where my split comes from on it because to me, the one half of me says, okay, well, I've got this thing I can go back to, and this is why I wanted to discuss this. I think it's a pretty cool topic. I can go back to this, but then there's the duality, this other half of me that says, no, this was important to me. Like I spoke of earlier, these things, sometimes you experience these things at a point in your life and they become important to you because of something you were going through or whatever, and it helps you through it. And you feel like you're a part of that, by extension. You know what I mean? Like you didn't have a hand in developing that, but
right.
by enjoying it and immersing yourself in it, you become a part of it and it's a part of you. And then when somebody comes along and makes something that's like a bastardized version of that thing that you feel like you're a part of, it rattles your cage. You know what I mean? And I think that's where people. So I think, there's really no winning in that scenario. I feel like the people in charge of these things are gonna get those movie paychecks and they're gonna let the studios do what they want, and then they're gonna continue to do what they want to do with their franchises. They're okay, the movie's one thing and but we still care about these stories, and we're still going to tell it. Like, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, and people knock Dragon Ball all the time. They're like, oh, it's dumb, but you know what, there's a reason it's probably the #1 franchise in the world. That doesn't happen by accident. You know what I mean? That's not because it's just candy. It's because people care about it. And when Shonen Jump, they decided they were going to pick Dragon Ball back up and Dragon Ball Super and all that kind of stuff. They didn't do it. It was going to make money. They knew that, but that's not the whole reason they did it. You can tell there's a lot of care that goes into it, into the stories, into the characters. They make sure that they're doing things right by their characters and things. They're not just throwing stuff out there. And there's a reason you can go on YouTube and watch hordes of people in the middle of a town square watching the final episodes of that show on a big screen and cheering and getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not by accident, because those creators, and my point I'm getting to is those creators care about their content. They put that care. They understand that you are a part of that. They understand that it is a part of you that is an important part. That's the difference between people who pan a bad movie, and you can go on YouTube and watch real fans reacting and losing their minds over the care people are giving to what they love. Because at the end of the day, I think if people who were in charge of doing these movies listened and brought people in more who actually had a hand in creating all these things and really listened to them and really took their feedback and input, I think you would have a totally different conversation when it comes to those things.
Sure. And it's like with movies anymore, like I said, as far as superheroes, or one thing I think we didn't mention, but just to quickly mention it, remember the cycle of it probably still happens, but the cycle of a superhero movie coming out, and then right before or right after is some god-awful abomination of a video game that came out.
Oh, yeah.
Based upon it.
The licensed video games, they were bad. Not all of them. Spider-Man 2's game was really good on PlayStation 2. That was a good game.
For the most part, Iron Man was very good. Watch out for that movie video game coming out. Whatever
it's coming, beware.
Yeah, and people at GameStop back then, they would groan when they have to stock it. We got it. Yeah.
X2, Wolverine's Revenge. I went through that game on GameCube, and the camera was so bad. I think that's where my vertigo started with video games, was that game, because the camera was so bad. And I just wanted to collect all the stuff, all the little dog tags and things from the Weapon X compound. And then I think Omega Red's in that game, and he's not even, I'm like, what the hell is this? I could be wrong about that. But I know there are X-Force characters in that weren't in the movies. But you're right. They don't do that as much anymore, though. I think game companies now are pretty savvy. Like, nah, man, you make a game, start your own company. We're not going to waste time on this. We got these other badass games that we're trying to finish, and we don't have time to do your movie paycheck. And we're going to get our paycheck. We don't need your movie paycheck for your game anymore.
Because remember, back in the day, this is back way in the day, back basically when the cartridge console race was going on, any license that could be somehow morphed into a game was being morphed into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, when that was starting to happen, this was what we're talking about, movie game, happened recently in 2000, the year 99 through probably 2010, and then finally stopped. People was like, okay, fine, it doesn't make money, whatever.
Yeah.
But back in the day, the cartridge things fucking 7-Up, the soft drink, had a video game.
Mm-hmm.
So
McKids, McDonald's, the NES game. I think you got it with you got it at McDonald's. It's a limited edition thing. It wasn't with a Happy Meal. I think you could buy it separately or something. But yeah, McKids. If you go on eBay, because I'm a collector, if you go on eBay and look up McKids, it goes for a decent amount of money. But I would never buy it. I mean, I got a reason to buy that.
Right. But that's also a marker of video games have became exorbitantly more expensive to make. So they can't just...
Yeah, back then you could turn 8-bit, 16-bit video game, you could turn those in a few months.
Yeah.
And that's why there were so many of them.
E.T. was made in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, the old Atari.
And it showed, but yeah.
Thousands of those copies sitting in a landfill somewhere in Arizona, is it? I can't remember where it is.
They even made a documentary about that to prove it.
Yeah. That's what I'm referencing. I forget what it's called, but yeah. Kind of sad, too, because you think about all the people that probably worked on that game. It was probably their first project. And you're like, my first project was so bad they buried it in a landfill. And it was based on a popular movie. How did this happen? But yeah, there was all kinds of games like that. RoboCop on NES. I mean, there were so many different games that got those weird franchise treatments. But it kind of goes back to what we're talking about, with the whole, how do we tie this into a movie? Why is it so important to tie it into a movie or tie a movie into a game? I think we're at a point now with kind of our nerd culture and stuff that it's less and less important. Like if a movie's coming out based on a game, people are like, okay, I'll check it out. Anymore, it's not like it's, oh man, did you hear they're doing this? Like it was 5-6 years ago. Even like with a comic book or an animation, you expect it anymore. If something gets to a certain level of popularity, you really expect it. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to go into talking about it here, but they're doing the Metal Gear movie. And this director is like, I'm a huge Metal Gear fan. Well, we've heard that before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to keep tabs on it.
Metric shit ton of lore in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
good luck, and bro.
You have here's how you have to do it, and I'm not going to get too into it, but you have to Easter egg that thing. You have to be like, people that are going to go see this movie are going to know the lore. They're going to know Metal Gear. Okay, Metal Gear sold millions and millions of copies, so you really only have to worry about selling tickets to those people who bought those copies. You're going to make your money back. You know what I mean?
Even down to the little green frog you could find.
Yeah. Well, let's say, you're talking about, Big Boss and the first movie won't be Big Shell, it'll be Shadow Moses. But,
honestly, I'd be fine if they just didn't do 1 and 2 and they just made a movie with Snake Eater. Like,
yeah, but I think a lot of people are going to want to see Solid Snake.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the guy. You could do what was it? Mother Base was the NES game. You could start there. That's kind of his first adventure. But you could plant these little Easter eggs. Talk about you could talk about things in Snake Eater, Big Boss, Ocelot, where they came from. It could be in conversation. You don't have to go into a 10-minute monologue back scene. These people going to the movie, that's what people making these movies need to understand. The people that are coming to see this movie are going to know what you're talking about if you go meta with the stuff. You know what I mean? They're going to know what you're talking about. So just tell the story. The template's already there. Tell the story. I'm not going to get into, I could talk a whole 2 podcasts about Metal Gear. I'm not going to do it right now.
Well, just for that movie, I think for Solid Snake, if that ever happens, which who knows, if that actually ever happens, I think what would be cool would be if they put Keanu Reeves as Solid Snake. I'm not
really,
dude. Listen, have you watched John Wick?
I love John Wick.
Well, there you go.
John Wick's great, but here's the thing. I think whoever plays Solid Snake has to. I love Keanu Reeves. I have nothing against Keanu Reeves. I only giggled because I don't see him as Solid Snake. I've got a couple of other actors I can think of as maybe Solid Snake, but I think Christian Bale would be a dope-ass Solid Snake because we know he can get in that shape. He's about that build. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Especially when he was playing Bruce Wayne. People said John Bernthal's going to play him. I'm like, I don't see John Bernthal playing Solid Snake. I just don't. He almost comes off as a Southern badass, which is cool, but that's not Solid Snake.
Right.
The thing with Solid Snake is you have to nail, and this will be the last point I make about this movie, because again, I could talk 2 podcasts about this movie. I think you have to toe that fine line between a hardened vet who's seen some shit and just wants to be left alone, and a guy who has a heart of gold but has been screwed over by so many times by his superiors he doesn't trust anybody anymore. Like a dog that you see at the kennel that wants to go home with you but has been abused and he's scared of people. You know what I mean?
Reeves.
Hey, I'm all for giving people a shot. Let's let's do the test screenings for Keanu Reeves as we'll figure. But he's in his 50s, right? I mean, he doesn't look like it certainly. But yeah, he's like a Highlander. He's one of those Highlanders in Hollywood. Don't age, you know.
Right.
But Keanu Reeves takes care of himself though too. I've seen some of his stuff. He's really big on healthy eating and living right. Everything I'm pretty much not. So
right. Well, I guess we're gonna come to a close here, but yeah. So I mean, this week we definitely talked about some interesting stuff. So
yeah, and the cool thing about what we're doing is, you know, this is a slight structure to the show, but you know, it's one of those whatever, and any subject we talk about is probably applicable to the things we're into. Like, you know, we could probably come into this show with no subject, get to talking about something, and fill an hour or two. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, yeah. But, I mean, there's so many things to be looking forward to. There's so much stuff coming down the pike. I am really, really stoked right now about what's coming down the pike for gaming and animation. There's a lot coming. There's the new Vampire Hunter D series is happening. It's supposed to be maybe dropping.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
The first quarter of next year. It's been in development for a couple of years, and now things are just starting to slip out about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's that happening. The Dragon Ball Super movie's coming out this fall. The Broly movie. God, man, it's going to be so awesome. Yeah, and there's all kinds of things happening with gaming. You know, these companies are all up in their game. So the stories are coming. The stories are coming, folks. I'm excited to talk about them. I'm excited to experience them. And it makes me excited to create art, create stories. It's what fuels me when I'm in here in the studio. And I know Adam's into this stuff. I know he gets excited about these things. Adam, what are you looking forward to, man? I know I'm probably going to ask you this every week, but, you know, every week something new drops, or your mind could be in a different place, or you're into a different thing, and then you're looking forward to something different. What are you looking forward to this week? And it could be the same thing as last week. That's totally fine.
I'm super looking forward to Metro Exodus, which is a game.
Dude, that looked good. We didn't talk about that earlier. The Gamescom stuff, that looked good.
Yeah, it's going to be the big deal. So,
what's your hype level for that, man?
Hype level for that?
Yeah.
And I say we people that played Metro 2, we just thought, well, all right, that's the end of it. And nothing was really talked about it for a long time. And to be fair, we were perfectly okay with that, because 1 and 2
because development on that was a little rough, right? They had a hard time getting that out, the second one. So everybody thought maybe there won't be a third one.
They had some contractual and licensing issues, so they had to just basically have like a lawyer Royal Rumble for a while, and then that got figured out. And after that, though, I mean, 2, I mean, it was really good, but I think 1, like as far as Metro, if you've never played it, it's been out for a while. It's definitely one of the few games where it's actually better to leave the initial audio track on, which is Russian. And it's actually based off of a book series, Metro is. But Metro Exodus looks sick. I can't wait for that. Other than that, though, I mean, I love horror movies, so that kind of goofy offshoot of The Conjuring or whatever is coming out that has to deal with a nun that was in the previous movies.
Oh, it's Her Story or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And other than that, that Call of Cthulhu game is coming out on October 30th. So
that's quick. Yeah,
that's my birthday month. So my birthday month tends to be relatively good to me every year for games. So that's usually when a lot of fall releases start dropping. And I don't know when Red Dead's coming out. I've completely forgotten.
I want to say that's coming out in September. I'm not sure. September or October, one of the two.
Yeah, so that would be cool. I don't know if you've played that or not, but
yeah. I'm looking forward to Redemption 2. That's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Red Dead Revolver. I love Red Dead Revolver. PS2. That was a dope game, man.
Even though, like, as shallow as I was back then as a kid, I was like, graphics on Red Dead Revolver look terrible. I'm not going to play that.
I was cool with that, man. Like, I loved Rygar on PS2. And, you know, people disagree with me all the time. I'm like, hey, man, no Rygar. Because, like, when Rygar 2 came out, and I played God of War, the first time I played God of War, I was like, man, they took a lot from that Rygar PS2 game in this game. They're like, you're insane. I was like, no, I'm not.
Bleeding edge.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'll tell you what. After watching Gamescom this week, my hype level for Resident Evil 2 has only gone up. And possible. I can't wait to edit this video and put it up, this reaction I did for it, because I was blown away by the William Birkin. They basically show you the William Birkin boss fight with Claire the first time you see him, and it's in a totally different spot. You know what I mean? Or if it's not the different spot, they've redone what the spot looks like. You know what I mean? So my hype level is critical right now for this game. I cannot wait. I am stoked.
I just got to decide which platform I'm going to play it on, whether it's a PC, whether it's my Xbox, PlayStation. I don't know.
Well, I entered a contest to win a copy of the PS4 version, so win, lose, or draw, I'll win that. If I do, probably won't. I doubt I will, but I'm probably going to play it on PC, honestly, because I've got a controller that works with my Mac now. So I'm probably just going to buy it on Steam and play it on there, because that'll probably be the best looking version, you know?
Yeah. I mean, as long as your rig can handle it, for sure.
Yeah. I've got a newer Mac, so it should be able to. And if not, I'll just buy some stuff from the Mac store and hook it up. But yeah, Resident Evil 2, it's getting all the hype points for me right now. I'm looking forward to other things, but right now, that's what's got me the most excited. So that's where I'm at.
Well, this is the last thing, and this is unrelated because there's really nothing been said about it. Blizzard has for a while kind of beaten around the bush and saying, hey guys, we're working on some new, air quote, Diablo content, which, you know, Diablo 3 dropped like 4 years ago, if not longer. You did some
streams when that first came out, I remember.
Yeah, and I like it. I mean, a lot of people probably, it gets a lot of flack from like the super hardcore Diablo 2 fans. Whatever. And
those things will. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're not going to please everybody.
No, I like it, and but if Diablo 4 gets announced, which that's a solid maybe. If that gets announced, man, I'm just looking forward to BlizzCon this year, because I already know it's going to be like Overwatch and WoW and some other crap, but I'm just hoping something comes out other than, you know, DLC for Diablo 3. But if Diablo 4 gets announced, or even I don't know, teased, I'd be pretty happy. Nice.
I just downloaded. I've got a PlayStation Plus account, and they're doing free games every month. But
right.
I just downloaded Bound by Flame. It's like a Western style RPG. You know, dragons, big armor, and stuff like that. I'm excited to play it for free, especially. You know, I almost pulled the trigger on it a couple times. It's $20. I never did, and then I saw the email that was free this month. I was like, oh man, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll do a review of it, see what I think. Isn't it
crazy how monetary investment can alter your perception of your enjoyment of something?
It really does, because I mean, you know, if you put money into something and it totally bombs, that sucks. But if you put 10, 15, 20 bucks into something and it's awesome, you've totally justified your spending. But if it's free, there's no risk. It's just some space on your hard drive.
And if it's free and it still sucks, well, that game really sucked, man.
Right. Yeah. If you didn't enjoy it all as a free game, delete it. You messed up as a publisher, probably, and that's probably why it's free. So
yeah.
But anyway, you got anything else, man?
No, that's it, man.
Sweet. Well, appreciate you all listening again this week. Again, we're coming at you live and hitting it hard every Thursday. With, some nerdy news and views and stuff like that from the Podunk Nerd podcast. So we appreciate you all listening in, and we look forward to talking to you all next week, and maybe a few times before then, depending on if something comes up. But in the meantime, well, I'm Ray Kaufman, Kaufman20XX on Twitter. And this is Adam Spiegel, my partner in crime. You can find him at The Spiegel on Twitter. And feel free to shout at us this week. Let us know what you thought of the podcast. Let us know what you're getting hype about. Let us know what you're looking forward to. Let us know what you all might like to see us talk about on here. And we will holler at y'all next week. So in the meantime, y'all take care. Take it easy. Take care of each other. And have some fun.
Good night.